Okay, John, we'll come to you later in the show. Thank you so much for helping us out here. Let's get right to Oversight Chair James Comer. He was in on the action. Chair Comer, it's good to see you today. Thanks for joining us tonight. So we heard there was a lot of fighting between Republicans and Democrats about holding Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress. Can you tell us more about that and the fallout of this vote?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is another win for the Constitution. This is another win for congressional oversight. Much like our impeachment inquiry vote, we got a strong vote. Unlike what the mainstream media is reporting, the Republicans in the House are unified in trying to hold people accountable in the government for not following the rule of law. We issued a lawful subpoena for those audio tapes. Merrick Garland refused to turn them over. We've held him in contempt of Congress. It's as simple as that, and the Democrats want to continue to defend the indefensible, and we're trying to get the truth to the American people. And I'll say this, Liz, even the mainstream media outlets, Associated Press, Washington Post, ABC, CNN, they've also sued to get those tapes. So the American people want to see those tapes, and the only person holding us back from getting those tapes is Merrick Garland.
Yes, so is the Congress's oversight powers, have they been damaged by this Biden White House? Because, by the way, you see today, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre could not explain exactly why President Biden did not attend the G7 dinner today in Italy. The White House is furiously pushing back on growing reports about Biden's age after sitting down at the wrong time at D-Day ceremonies, let's show it, then suddenly turning around on the stage with the French president, and Biden appeared to freeze at a Juneteenth event at the Biden White House. I mean, the issues are firing up over his age so much, there's talking about Kamala Harris and whether she'll have to step in as president if Biden is reelected. So how could AG Garland think it was okay not to tell the American people or show the American people the audio tapes?
I mean, the amount of times that Attorney General Garland and his Department of Justice have obstructed Congress in our substantive and very transparent oversight is countless. I mean, he continues to obstruct. They continue to do everything they can to work with the corrupt mainstream media to create false narratives about why Republicans might need certain information or anything else. But with respect to these audio tapes, the fact that the liberal mainstream media, who attacks me, it seems like on a daily basis, they agree with me that these tapes should be made public. I mean, that says it all. The only people in the world that won't turn those tapes over are Joe Biden's inner circle. So I think the Congress has spoken. I think this will help us in court. This will go to court. And I believe that this strong vote that we got today on the House of Representatives will help us win in court. The Attorney General is arguing executive privilege. Joe Biden waived his executive privilege when he turned over the transcripts. Now, I will be interested to see, Liz, whether the transcripts match the audio, because I have a serious trust issue with Merrick Garland. I think most of your viewers do as well. So I think that there are a lot of questions that'll be answered when these tapes are finally released to the Oversight Committee or the American people.
You know, we should point out Politico reports its new poll with Morning Consult reveals Kamala Harris has the same poor ratings as Biden, that a majority of voters don't view Harris as a strong leader, don't see her as trustworthy. Talk to us about Congress's oversight powers under this Biden White House. How much has it been broken?
It's been broken in a million pieces. I mean, they will not turn over anything. You know, if we request emails, say, for example, the pseudonym emails, where Joe Biden had these secret email accounts that he was emailing back and forth with these shady Biden associates who were involved in the Biden influence peddling scheme. They've turned over 75% of the emails. Those would happen just by coincidence to be all the junk emails and everything else. The substantive emails that we know exist, because some of them are on the laptop that the DOJ used that was not Russian disinformation, that was 100% legitimate. We know there are emails on there. They refuse to turn those over. That's one of many examples of obstruction by Merrick Garland and the Biden White House in our congressional oversight.
Chairman Comer, thanks for joining us tonight. It's good to see you.